everybody, welcome to the kitchen. Today we're going to make butternut squash gratin with cinnamon maple pecans to go on top. Alright, so what do we need? We need 2 large butternut squash, that's about 5 to 6 pounds, and these are 2 nice big ones. And 1 kombucha squash, potatoes, olive oil, garlic, onion, heavy cream, Gruyere cheese, Parmesan Reggiano, sage, salt, and pepper. So we are going to get this done ahead of time. I don't have all of the ingredients. I'm going to have to go get those later. But what I do is I want to start prepping the vegetables. So we can peel these and slice them and then put them in Ziploc bags and store them in the refrigerator until we're ready to finish making the recipe. All right, so we're going to peel our butternut squash first. And I just use a peeler. It's actually easy to do. We're going to peel off this. And then we will cut off the ends and the bottom, open it, remove the seeds, and then slice it the way we want it. So just continue doing this until it's completely done. All right, so you want to cut your butternut squash nice and thin. We cut it in half here, and then I cut that in half, and then I cut these nice half moon shapes, and this will look beautiful on top when we layer it out. So these are all cut same thickness, and I'll use that for the top layer. The bottom layer though, I'm going to use the pieces that didn't come out so well, and I'll also cut the bottom and use that to fill in. Here is our kombucha squash, and I'm going to cut this in half, and we're going to try to also get nice thin strips just like this. There it is, and we have to remove these seeds as well. So I'm going to get rid of the seeds first, and I'm going to start slicing it so we can get these nice half moon segments. Now I'm slicing up our kombucha squash, and we want to have our gratin pieces the same size as our butternut squash so we can layer them nicely. So when you're cutting, just remember that. We want to have about the same thickness and the same size so that you can layer them nicely in the pan. Now I had so much butternut squash that I'm probably going to do 2. I'm going to do 1 that's layered and 1 that's cubes. So any pieces of the kombucha squash that I cut that aren't necessarily the same size, I'll cut into cubes, and then we'll make it 2 different ways. So that way if you're ever time constrained during the holidays, you know that you don't have to sit here slicing it so beautifully, but you can still just chop it up into cubes and throw it together. Here are our thinly cut potatoes, and I've got them in water. And I'm going to now blanch the butternut squash. I just did the kombucha squash. Our water's coming to a boil. As soon as it does, I'm going to do the same thing. But I'm going to put this in for 3 minutes. I put the other one in, and it almost started to disintegrate. So just 3 minutes of boiling water for the butternut squash. Here's our Gruyere, and this is a nice brand, but just so you know, it is a little expensive. This was $6.99, and it's only 7 ounces. So just make sure when you are grating it, you get these nice long strands. And it also helps if you put this in the freezer for about 15 minutes before you grate it, because that makes it nice and firm. So this is our Gruyere. Now we're going to make our sauce. So I have our frying pan over medium-high heat. I'm going to add in a tablespoon of olive oil, and here are onions sliced thinly, half moons. And this is for the gratin that we are going to layer. I'm going to warm up our olive oil. First, we're going to add in our garlic. So I have 1 clove of garlic, finely minced. And we'll turn down the heat a little bit. Now I'm going to add in our onions. So, as we're stirring this, our garlic is getting brown nicely. And I'm going to keep stirring this until our onions are translucent. Here's our 2 cups of Gruyere and our 2 cups of Parmesan Reggiano, and we're just going to mix the 2. And we want to reserve a 1/4 cup of this mixture to put on top of our gratin. Our onions are nice and soft and translucent, and so now we're going to add in our cream. I have the salt and the pepper in there. So let's add this. want to stir that around, make sure the pepper gets stirred in, and so does the salt. And then I already took some out and reserved it for the topping. So now I'm going to add in our cheese. See how beautiful this is? So I'm just going to stir this in. And get all the cheese melt. And then we'll have it ready to put on top of our gratin. Also going to turn off the heat right now. We'll let the residual heat melt the cheese. So what I'm doing over here right now is I'm doing the bottom layer of the gratin using up sort of like the broken or messier pieces, and then I'll put a nice fine top layer. And adding in 2 sage leaves so that way it can infuse into the cream. And we want to do that. Get lots of beautiful flavor. Sage is a wonderful herb. And then when we assemble it, we're going to put in 4 sage leaves on top, in between the layers to make it decorative. So here's our first layer, and I'm going to pour some of our sauce over it. Then we'll do our decorative second layer and pour the remaining sauce, layer in our sage, and then top with the additional cheese we have left over. Here we have our finished gratin with all those layers, and I tucked in the sage. And now this is the remainder of our sauce, so we're just going to pour it over. Then jiggle this a little bit to let that sauce spread out. Then we have our cheese, and we'll finish, sprinkle the top with all of that beautiful cheese. We're going to put it into a 350-degree oven, and if you're at home, you might want to do 375. This oven here runs hot, and we're going to bake it for about 30 to 40 minutes. So I'm going to rotate this in 15 minutes, see how it's doing, and adjust accordingly. So here we have all of our parboiled squash and potato bits, and we are going to put it into this pan, which I've already sprayed with nonstick cooking spray. We have our cheese ready to go on as the garnish, and we're making the next sauce. So we have our onions sauteing in here. We're going to add in our cream and our cheese as soon as the onions get translucent, and then we'll pour this all into our mixing bowl and then dump the entire thing into this and bake it. And obviously this is a much easier fashion of making the gratin instead of taking all this time to slice and layer these. So if you're in a time crunch, just do it this way. There we go, and then we're going to top it with our reserved cheese, 1/4 cup of cheese. We'll get that evenly spread over the top, and then again, of course, our beautiful sage leaves, we're just going to put 4 on our dish. Here are our finished gratins. Here is the one where we layered, and then here's the one where we just chopped up cubes and put them in. So I think they both look absolutely beautiful, and this will be wonderful to taste. And then you can garnish it with the cinnamon maple pecans that we're got in the oven right now roasting. And so when those are done, they'll come out and it'll be a nice accompaniment to the side dish for Thanksgiving, which I'm sure you could make this anytime. It looks so beautiful with the sage leaves on top. Here are candied pecans on top of our butternut squash gratins, and this is the cinnamon maple candied pecans. For more recipe demonstrations, please click like and subscribe to Chef Victoria Loves YouTube channel and have fun in the kitchen. Thank you.